Hello and welcome to the Economic Times Smart Series. In this episode, we bring you the highlights of two events, the Economic Times Smart Pharma Summit and the Economic Times Smart Manufacturing Summit. In the Economic Times Smart Pharma Summit, business leaders, pharmacists, healthcare professionals, scientists, and industrialists from across the globe provide their comprehensive view on cutting-edge technologies, research and development, new therapeutics, and challenges in the field of pharma. First up, we bring you a chief guest address on the future of Indian pharma by Dr. K. Sudhakar, Honorable Minister, Department of Health and Family Welfare and Medical Education, Government of Karnataka.
During COVID times, that was a defining moments for India to showcase that India played a very crucial role in terms of giving a lot of essential medicine during that time. So thanks to the pharmaceutical companies, what an incredible journey it has been. India's pharmaceutical journey right from the beginning has been exemplary. And from Atmanirbhar Bharat, let us grow this country, let us grow this sector to ensure that the world tomorrow should depend on India for its pharmacy. So, Bharat pe Vishwa Nirbhar, that should be the line that we should all try to concentrate on. So, ecosystem, innovation and startups. These are the three virtues that we should all remember in propagating this sector ahead. Namaste. Jai Hind.
Next up, we have Dr. Montu Kumar Patel, President Pharmacy Council of India, to shed light on positioning India as Asia's pharma nerve center.
During this pandemic situation, all different part of the world, we supplied the medicine all over world. So India became the pharmacy of the world. I think in future, under the leadership of our Prime Minister, our pharmacy and pharmaceutical industry will grow betterly and very good. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to express my words.
Moving on, we have a power-packed panel discussion on the boardroom discussion, Pharma's blueprint for the next 25 years.
We are now starting to see some smart medicine efforts being done in kind of in the R&D space in startups, which is another good development. So all this put together, if sustained well and if incentivized properly by the government, could lead to something better.
Mindset of us should be, we are not just the pharmacy of the world, we want to be the pharma market of the world. And therefore, government has to create that, encourage the funding, because no Indian entrepreneur has the ability to fund billions of dollars.
I think the next layer of opportunity which is available is the CDMO. And India has one of the lowest costs of doing CDMO. Our EBITDA margins are much better than what you see in the West. I think the last bit I'll probably say is that if India innovates, the world can benefit.
Just, I think, 3 months ago, March 22, the central government has initiated discussions with the DCGI on a task force for how to get rid of counterfeits and spurious drugs in the Indian value chain. As you said, 10-20+% is large quantities, which is ideally clearly not good from an investment protection perspective, but most importantly from a patient protection.
Next up, we bring you a virtual conversation on digital twin, smart technology for smart pharma.
How do you think leadership in many pharma organizations are driving change, especially from a mindset perspective, going from doing digital to actually being digital?
I do have the feeling that there is still a convoluted understanding of what Industry 4.0 and digital twins, let's say in particular, can bring into the table. So once you start diving into the math, and into the finance, and then you start understanding that with digital twins, you can drive development times down by 50%. So I think that's what's missing, a good understanding and a good understanding of the financial value. And then we'll start seeing an acceleration of the adoption.
In our next session, we have a fireside chat on managing the pharma life cycle with blockchain.
Between Prasad, you and Vikram, if you can articulate your thoughts as to where you see this leading in your industry.
I think the adoption globally is is now picking up. It has a big future because in simple terms is appended digital ledger. So every time there is a transaction, it is immutable, it is perfectly there and it cannot be changed, and it is through the cryptography sequentially arranged. So that's in the basic the blockchain.
Thanks, Prasad. Vikram, over to you.
Blockchain is going to play a very important role, and with the advent of Industry 4.0, with AI, ML, blockchain is going to be not just a support, process tool. In my sense, it is going to be the enabling tool, which is going to, make adoption to ML, AI, and the entire 3 C's, like I would want to say, we know about connect, collaborate, and communicate, but the 3 new C's in my perspective, which blockchain is going to play a very important role, is connect, of course. Stay contained and connect, and we need to be connected and continuous.
Next, we have a CIO panel on keeping up with robotic process automation and AI. The session examines functions and processes to understand how emerging technologies might reduce the time to market.
Now, when we look at R&D, essentially there are 3 types of problems we are trying to solve. Number 1, we want to do faster drug development. Second is around assurance of outcome. And then the third is around productivity. So on all the 3 levers is where we see significant use of data, algorithms, as well as automation.
Today we deal with employees' experience more transactional way. So we have automated number of processes like onboarding, offboarding. Even during this new normal or during COVID, we have completely automated all our plants and R&D and other offices.
If I speak about overall AI ML paradigm, I was having conversation with one of our fellow CIO, and he was just mentioning that they have gone so much good on X-ray that 98 to 99% of the time with AI ML they are able to tell that what exactly problem is. So those are the advents I see.
It is always about augmenting human intelligence, it's not about replacing it, and that has to be the very clear mandate or directive.
In India, in order to review a TB patient, the entire analysis, the diagnosis takes about 2 weeks. And Prime Minister PM Modi has announced a couple of years back that there's intent for the India government to eliminate TB by 2025. And we took this very close to our heart, and we have partnered with a solution that uses AI and have reduced the 2 weeks of a timeline down to 1 day in terms of diagnosis.
Their investments into the data lakes and data accumulation and everything. Now, how do we leverage that data is very important. In fact, FDA and other regulators are also looking for CPV calculations on the fly. So when you look at the CPV, it needs a lot of parameters like quality parameters, critical quality attributes, critical process attributes, critical material attributes, and then on the fly calculate all the things. So it is actually converging into a sort of artificial intelligence again, but not a completely. So it actually uses a lot of statistical calculations on that, and then tells you how the batch is going to end up, or how the last 3 batches were, and how the next batch is going to be. So this is how actually the entire industry is going.
Moving on, we have a standalone address on low-code accelerate digital transformations in pharma with Man V. Chaudhary, founder and CEO, Ample Logic, taking center stage.
When you are talking about a volume-based to the value-based, what you need to do? You need to address the repetitive tasks what you are doing in the organization. Am I right or not? Yes? So when an IT company, right, will try to minimize their reworks, right? So how? That can be with this kind of platform called as a low code. So what happens? What is this low code is all about? Whenever you wanted to build a new application or anything, right? We used to create some POC, right? There is a mock-up screens need to be built. Then after that, application will be developed. These are something used to happen. Now instead of that, you are directly creating an application. It's just to use a drag and drop and try to build an application. You visually see how the application looks like. You don't need to write 100 pages of URS. So in the real life, there are many scenarios wherein the low code is going to help. Today, you need a solution in a faster way. Thank you very much for your time. Bye.
Our spotlight session focuses on pharma and policies, focusing on a self-reliant India.
Ma'am, my first question to you is that what do you see, where will India be perceived as at the global platform after 25 years from now?
2047, after 100 years of independence, I would like to see pharmacy moving to pharma market. We at DOP or Department of Chemical Fertilizers have a vision that at 2047 we should be self-reliant for not only for the generics but complex generics and novel drugs which are required for the India and for the world at large.
Ma'am, in any specific perspective or the reforms, regulatory reforms which the government is looking from IP protection perspective?
Yeah, see, IP is a very important issue, but it's a slightly complex issue also. And we have been seeing that how government is facilitating this, protecting IPRs. You know, the constriction in terms of timelines. Now, government has a department where filing a patent, examination of the patent, even the granting of patent, the time cycle has been reduced, even the cost has been reduced. So I'm seeing a lot of positive change, and I'm sure with time to come, this pharmacy will be converted into pharma market, not only for India, but for globally at large.
Next up, we have a keynote address on R&D and innovation, leading Indian pharma into global leadership position by Dr. Anil Parikh, President, Medical Affairs and Clinical Research at IPCA Labs.
Current scenario of Indian pharmaceutical market, our market is different from the developed country market because we have typical branded generics market where, you know, if you have a drug like atorvastatin, there will be 200 and 300 companies marketing atorvastatin with different brand names, and all of these will be competing with the doctor's attention, healthcare professionals' attention to get the prescriptions. So almost entire revenue of the most Indian companies come through generics. And applications is that pharmaceutical innovation and clinical research yields new products. Innovation in generic products is less risky and rewarding. Unlike new drug discovery, innovations on generic products can be pursued by many Indian companies. And medical department should be functioning as a source of innovation and focus to shift from marketing support to, you know, innovation validated through clinical research. And this focus shift will help Indian companies to launch next generation products. So thank you very much for your patience here.
One, I think the whole thing around cell and gene therapy. So really that is the next frontier of science really in terms of the technology specifically doing it. Second technology is really around AI, artificial intelligence. Today if you look at the vaccine as well, the vaccine was being able to develop in 9 months. The reason being you were able to do a lot of simulations which would take normally 10 years to do it, right? Third technology which is there today is the wearables and the device. So the Apple Watch today is able to tell you that if you're going to have an heart arrhythmia, warn you in advance. The wearables are going to become more and more looking at different physiological characteristics and then giving data for people to analyze across the world to say what potentially could be a possibility. Fourth is that a large part of the trends or large part of the blood pressure, whatever it is, those were made with the Western civilization in really perspective. These things vary from people to people and vary from ethnicity, race and everything else. So even bringing some of that, technology is able to do that. So these are a few things that technology will be fruitful.
Welcome back to the Economic Times Smart Series. In the Economic Times Smart Manufacturing Summit, industry professionals and technology executives shared their best practices and lessons learned in developing, deploying, and managing emerging technological capabilities. Moving on, we bring you a curtain raiser CEO panel wherein experts discuss innovation in India's manufacturing to accelerate global value chain participation.
To me, as I see today, India will be playing a major role in the global value chain based on two aspects. One is obviously the cost competitiveness. The second part which is happening is the technology, because that whole startup ecosystem that we have will actually enable a lot of technology development, and which will then result into products, into sub-assembly, into controllers, into devices, all of which will go into the global supply chain.
What I think is required going forward to further enhance the capability of Indian supply chain to compete at the global level. And I praise personally the Indian government plan for the production-linked incentive scheme, but definitely will give a big boost.
I think the efficiency factor plays a big part in the global decisions that companies make. So we need to work more on efficiency. I think that will really give us a bigger edge in the next 3 to 5 years to grab a bigger share.
The complexities of the Indian market provides an opportunity for innovation, whether it's a startup ecosystem on one side, whether it's technology on the other side, pulling together enables the challenges to be solved much more uniquely. So I find this is a great place for technology to bridge every part of the supply chain and drive an innovation outcome.
You know, the recent survey which took place has come out with very important statistics. 70% of the Asia Pacific organizations, they have started focusing on this digital transformation journey.
Our next panel discussion focuses on how digital supply networks is a leading practice for India to incorporate.
Anil, if I can bring you first and sort of explore some of the aspects that needs to be looked at from a digitization perspective across the value chain.
Before we do anything, whether it is smart digitalization, anything, we need to know who our customer is and what is the profile of the customer today. He wants everything yesterday basis, the cheapest, the best, control 24/7. And if he makes a mistake, he wants his money back within 2 hours. That's the profile of the customer. Whatever you do, whether it is digital, it is smart, anything, the customer has to be the focus that all of us know in business.
Zarwan.
Tracking and tracing is very important. At any point of time, we need to know, because the customer, again, this is a customer need. Where is my product today? Customers expect that from manufacturing organizations as well.
I'll invite Shubhankar to sort of speak a little bit about the kind of digitization which is happening on the manufacturing front.
Manufacturing industries, other pharmaceuticals, everywhere. This response time, this agility, this resilience is lot dependent on the digital ecosystem. So it is imperative for any organization to, along with their budget and AOPs and the 5-year strategy, they also look to what is the digital roadmap.
So Manish, your views around the digitization in the logistics space?
What we have realized is by using a foundation of digital, we can definitely have a balance between resilience, agility, and efficiency, right? So that's the way to go. It's how we embrace them is what's important. I think what is very important is for the industries to work very closely with the ministry when this journey is happening.
Next up, we have a fireside chat on India's 2030 EV ambition, innovating the value chain and ecosystem to address the market growth.
Shubhankar, first question to you. You've been in the business of refining petroleum and gasoline. By 2030, a large chunk of it will be out. How are you getting for this change?
Actually, very frankly, we are in the energy sector. We are in the business of providing energy for mobility. The EV journey is a necessary phase in the energy transition. And it is, we are all committed to make it happen, because apart from, of course, the kind of energy, I mean, we all are committed to the net zero ambitions. Honorable Prime Minister has also announced 2070 as the target for the country. BPCL has announced our net zero ambition by 2040, and transition to EV forms a big part of that process. So we see it as just another energy that we're going to be providing for mobility.
Abhijit, what is the government doing in bringing not only startups, but then established companies together to make adoption a success?
Areas where we have been working is to primarily make an emerging technology landing smooth in India. When it comes to adopting a technology on mass level, it requires a lot of components, which includes standardization, which includes a ready-made policy, which most of the cases, most of the times not possible, not readily available there. So how do we create those policies? Where only two ways. One, a policy gets inspired from another policy, maybe some other country which is ahead of us. And the other way is create your own prototype, do your own pilots, do your own technical trials, and then reach to realities.
Thanks, Abhijit. Thanks, Shubhankar, for your time.
In our next panel, industry experts discuss how 5G and IIoT can bring a higher degree of innovation by rebooting industrial settings.
We want to make the consumption of 5G as simple as buying a SIM card. If you have 500 devices inside a factory, you give us 500 SIM cards price per month for a period of 3 years. We will put everything it takes to make 5G come alive in a factory. So it is not a capital expenditure anymore.
For the automated plant to work, you need obviously the automation hardware. You also need automation software. Now the Siemens and Gs of the world who actually provide this kind of a SCADA softwares, they will say I need not more than 80 millisecond latency. Right now, in such kind of scenario, it becomes very difficult in today's age to put all that into the cloud. So it's a challenge which is there, and I believe that 5G will solve that problem in future.
Biggest challenge that from we face is connectivity, data connectivity. Even if 5G comes, this challenge still remains the same. And what about already existing machines? Are they compatible to the new 5G frequencies? So the entire retrofitting of new sensors, that's another part that we have to look at while we are scaling up.
All the computing that has to happen at the edge, we need a really, really robust ecosystem to connect it back to the central infrastructure. That is where the 5G networks play a very, very important role.
With manufacturing as a perspective, preventive maintenance will be eliminated. No preventive maintenance. It will be condition-based monitoring, or it is going to be a proactive approach will be there. Right?
Up next, we have a closing keynote on propelling the future, India as a semiconductor manufacturing hub.
Any thoughts on what can be operating models that we should initiate as industry, as the government, and as participants to see that the talent pool is right?
So semiconductor is more cap intensive than labor intensive, the fab part of it. So the arbitrage opportunities, visible arbitrage opportunities may be limited. But there is, as I said, a large ecosystem around it. So there will be certain spin-offs that will happen for the larger economy.
Where do you think this sector can really be, and what would be? Is there a crystal gaze that you have, or how is it?
I think what we would probably see is certain homegrown ventures, certain fair amount of foreign investment, and certain joint ventures. I think these three formats, in a sense, would propel the sector.
I think two important things, right? One, obviously, we have a manufacturing ecosystem which is mature and which can be scaled significantly and rapidly. So I think that is possibly the first driver for us to participate in the GVC. Second, I think with enabling policies that we have right now, which is really promoting domestic value addition, we'll also build companies to scale. So that possibly would be the second big driver that we would have. And the third, quite naturally, is that we also harness the power of our talent together with all the dimensions that we have from a research and development investments and incentivization, which will also drive the value addition into the future. So to that extent, with a strong domestic ecosystem, highly favorable policies, a platform that can go to scale, I think we would be able to accelerate our global value chain participation.
See, in a way, 5G is a technology chasing problems to be solved. Because today, the kind of problems we can solve with 5G is only in our imagination. The amount of bandwidth it provides, amount of latency, the low latency it gives, we really don't know what all problems it can solve. Which means, inside a business, inside a manufacturing organization, the 5G agenda cannot be given to a CIO or a CTO. It has to be a business driven agenda. I think that is when they can start with what problems they can solve, which the technology can help us solve them. So for 5G to be solved, you have to bring an ecosystem alive, and this will have to be solved with a clear ROI in mind, because the problem which you are solving should pay for all of this, right? And that's going to be an interesting challenge for all the businesses. But there are some very interesting problems you can solve using 5G.